on this computer. Okay. Hello and welcome to Inside America's Minds. I'm Dr. Jody J. DeLuca, and today I have with me Cynthia Langley, psychic medium and spiritual counselor. Cynthia, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you so much for having me. I feel very privileged.
Oh, it works both ways. The other thing is, I was looking at our notes, and the first time you and I spoke was September 9th of 2022. So we've been trying to get this going, and I was like, wow, this is wonderful. And in the meantime, I had been asking people, what are questions you would want to ask a psychic medium, a spiritual counselor? So a lot of the questions I'm going to ask you today are based on questions that other people have. And
Nice.
it's going to be great. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what is a spiritual medium? What is a spiritual counselor, a psychic medium?
Absolutely. Well, so a spiritual medium is someone who can basically attune to the other side. So, from all of those in the unseen world, all of our loved ones that have crossed over onto the other side. And I say spiritual medium just because it is from spirit to spirit. So we're all spirit first and foremost. And so, you could call yourself spiritual Jody. So it's,
I'm not
it's
so
no
sure my
different.
clients or patients would refer to me as that. But so when you talk about the other side, because when I was putting together the research for us, I was like, okay, we need to establish a definition of who you communicate with for the audience. So what do you mean by the other side or the departed?
Absolutely. So when you communicate with the other side, when I say the other side, it's basically when I have a client that comes to me, it's going to be typically one of their loved ones.
Okay.
So will be a family member, a friend, an acquaintance. It can be really anybody that they have known or touched within their lives. And sometimes we will communicate with their other guides or their angels or their helpers or anyone on the other side that's kind of helping and guiding them along their journey also. But mainly it is their loved ones that have crossed over, that have died, and that
Okay.
are now on the other side.
So they are deceased.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Yes, when you're talking about mediumship, it is always deceased. When you're talking
Okay.
about psychic, that is from soul to soul. So if we're doing a psychic session, it will be from my soul to your soul, Jody. There's no interaction with those that have deceased, those that have passed. That is mediumship.
Okay, perfect. And I noticed on your site exactly that. Services include mediumship, soul to soul sessions, past life regressions, in between lives regressions, remote energy balancing sessions, and classes. And you work with people all over the world. So this is going to be good. Now, how long have you been a medium?
Um, that's a good question. I think there's a difference in saying how long have I been a medium and how long have I been a practicing medium.
Okay.
I definitely feel like I've been a medium my entire life. I feel like a lot of us, almost all of us, are mediums when we're born. We all have the ability. Um, and practicing medium, I would say, probably I don't know, 2009, 2010, somewhere around there.
Okay. And when we first spoke last year, I asked you, I said, how old were you when you first experienced these uh, these encounters, if you will, with the other side. And you said, I don't know if I could say, maybe 5. I was really little. The very first thing I remember seeing, do you remember talking to me about this? You said the very first thing I remember seeing was we had just moved into a new home. I saw a lady walking up and down the hallway. She looked like a bag lady. She was short, stocky, lots of things on her, pots. At one point, she realized I could see her. She stopped and
Mhm.
looked at me. I was so scared. I was afraid, very much so. I saw her a few times and then she went away. Tell us a little bit more about that experience.
Yeah, yeah. It was absolutely scary, but at the same time exciting, kind of exciting, there was something in me that was excited, but there was something in me that was scared, because I'm in my own home. So there's a part of me that knows that there shouldn't be a stranger in my home, but at the same time, I didn't totally realize she wasn't real. I figured if my mom or my dad or someone else saw her, they would see her. Um, and it took me a while to figure out that, some of the things that I was experiencing and some of the things that I was seeing, other people were not.
Mm,
And that was, I think a point where I definitely didn't say anything else from there on. I didn't really talk about it from there, especially because as a practicing Catholic, you are not supposed to talk about that stuff, except for we can talk about angels. And so that's when my relationship with the angels grew exponentially, because that was allowed. I was allowed to do that. So,
mm.
um, but it was just random things like that, that I would experience or see. And I was very fortunate. I know that everything kind of gets put into our lives the way it should be. And I had a babysitter that lived next door that was actually studying paranormal, which,
Okay.
I mean, you're
De-
talking about the
define that
70s.
for us, Cynthia,
So she
paranormal.
was, yep, she was studying anything that was, out of the ordinary,
Okay.
anything that was out of, anything that we would consider normal. So she was studying all about ghosts and entities or whatever, all this kind of stuff, right? And in the 70s, that was completely unheard of. Nowadays, it's very common, but back then, absolutely not. And for some reason, my parents did not know she studied. I still to this day do not remember how I found out that she did. And she was a beautiful, wealth of information for me, and someone that I could kind of talk to about the things I was experiencing. So that was amazing, and a beautiful blessing.
Well, and because it's a topic that people, I mean, they believe or they don't believe. And you were raised Catholic, which I'm going to ask you a few questions about that, because a lot of people I had talked to are, well, you can't be Christian and be a medium, or it's witchcraft, or it's heresy.
Yeah.
Everybody's got opinion about something. And
Yeah.
so I thought, it takes a lot of courage to also do what you do. Um, on your website, as a child, I had spirits coming to me trying to connect. I was fearful at first, and through the years, I realized I needed to embrace it and learn as much as I could. Many of my friends and family had no idea about my gifts as I hid them because the fear of judgment. I have now fully embraced my gifts. I'm blessed to be able to bring loving messages from spirits to my clients. I have met people who have sought your services, and I have to say that from a psychological, emotional perspective, they had
Mhm.
finally achieved some peace. And you are
Mhm.
a spiritual counselor too.
Yes.
Your training. I was fascinated about this. I got to ask you though, you're a graduate of the renowned Arthur Findley College of Spiritualism and Psychic Sciences. And then there's something you said to me when we talked last year, the Harry Potter castle. Is that building, is that what the Harry Potter castle was modeled after?
I have no idea. I doubt it. I doubt it, but it certainly feels like that's what it is when you're there. It's this really old beautiful, beautiful building. And Arthur Findley was a man who he owned. It was actually his home, and he had gone to a seance, and he was a complete skeptic and didn't believe in really anything. And after the seance, he completely did this 180. He started journaling, writing these books. His books are wonderful to read, and compiling. And he kind of created this system. And I'm so sorry if I'm getting this incorrect, but I'm going off of my memory. I think it was like an ABC or a 1, 2, 3 method. And every seance he would go to, he would every contact, he would either categorize it A, B, or C. So A was like absolutely everything was correct and you could go and verify it. B was everything was correct, but there was like one thing or two things that it needed to be verified or couldn't be verified. And C was there were like 3 or 4 items. And I don't know how many hundreds, probably thousands of seances that he ended up going to. And he met up with, the, I think it was the psychic research, I don't know, something back then. It was, I mean, in the 1900s. And they did all kinds of scientific research and just amazing, amazing things. And when he passed, he left his home to the studies of research and for mediumship and psychic studies.
What
So
was
that's
that
kind of where it's
like?
from.
How long were you in school for? What did the training involve, Cynthia?
It's always like you go for each class goes for about a week, and then it shifts into another class. And I was there, gosh, I don't remember how long I was there. I had little kids at the time, so I couldn't stay for as long as I wanted to. I
Sure.
would love
Yeah.
to. But all of the teachers are different teachers. So
Mm.
everything is being taught differently. There's psychic classes, there are mediumship classes, there's mental mediumship, there's channeling, there's spiritual mediumship, there's art mediumship, there's just everything. The day starts out where the entire school will sit in meditation for about an hour, and then you'll go have a quick breakfast, and then you'll go to your classes. And the classes are all day long, except for tea break. They have tea breaks all the time, which are wonderful.
I
But
bet in
they're round.
England. Now,
Yeah.
is it in London or the
No,
school?
it's no, it's not. Oh my gosh, it's been
Hmm.
so many years since I've gone there. It's in a teeny tiny little town. I don't
How,
remember the name
how
of the town, but
wonderful. I bet the
I think
people
it's
you met were
Stansted.
incredible.
Oh,
Stanton?
you meet people from all over the world. And all your
Hmm.
roommates are from all over the world. It is the best experience. It's absolutely amazing. And the grounds are beautiful,
Hmm.
green and lush with ponds and gardens. So you can really get into a tune with yourself so that then you can connect better. And the teachers are phenomenal, phenomenal. I was so blessed to have one
Hmm.
of my favorite teachers was Jackie Wright, and she is now the president of the the Spiritualist Church, and the teachers will
Well,
blow your mind. I mean, they are out of this world, amazing.
And I don't think a lot of people know that there is training to be a medium as well as a psychic. And not everybody, I'm assuming, gets that training. So you are formally trained. Definition. What is the difference between a medium and a psychic? Because when I was doing the research, I didn't have a clear operational definition. Can you tell us the difference between a medium and a psychic?
Yeah, absolutely. So a medium is someone who attunes with those that have passed, with those on the other side. So you
Okay.
will be speaking with anyone that has crossed over. A psychic is someone who will be attuning with the other person's soul that is here, that is alive.
Okay, can you repeat that about the psychic?
Absolutely. So a psychic is someone who will they will tune with your so my soul, Jody, would be attuning with your soul, with Jody's
Okay.
soul. And I
Okay.
would be getting information from you, from your higher self.
Okay.
There would be no talking to anyone on the other side, no talking to anyone that has passed. It's only my higher spirit or my soul and your soul. So all of that psychic information is all everything that's in your field, everything that's in your like your energetic field. That's where I'm pulling that information from.
When you say higher self, what do you mean by that, Cynthia?
So higher self would be your whole soul.
Okay.
So you have Jody the human, right? You
Okay.
have Jody, when you go inside and you get really quiet, your soul that connects to the other world, to the other side. So you're always connected to the divine. You're always, always connected. That part of you is your higher self. So your higher self and your soul are like this one and the same.
So we in my field would refer to consciousness.
Yes.
How would that, what would be analogous in your field to human consciousness?
So consciousness, I would still consider that to be the mind or
Okay.
it would be a higher mind. But if you want to talk about like consciousness, I would go into maybe, you know, yeah, I would definitely. For me, I would define the consciousness as still being part of the human self,
Okay.
still being part of the mind, but from a higher mind. When you step into the soul or your higher self, you are actually tapping into the part that is connected to the divine. It's one whole connection. So it's let me give you an example. So it's like if you're doing something and all of a sudden you get that gut feeling, that weird kind of I'm not quite sure.
Intuition or
Absolutely.
okay.
Your mind isn't in it, right? So because logically then you'll start trying to figure it out.
Okay.
You'll start, okay, well, if I do this, or what if I, this kind of thing. But that is tapping into your soul. That's tapping into your higher self. That part of you is connected. That part of you is your whole soul. So if you want to go in deeper, it's always a piece of your soul is here, a piece of your soul is on the other side, and it connects. So
Okay.
you always have that full connection.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, this I've read a lot about your field, but this is an education for me, definitely, and I know for our audience. I read a lot, and you went and I when we spoke, you refer to spirit. Who is spirit?
So when I talk about spirit, it's the part of us that our soul connects to that's on the other side.
Okay.
Or the whole self of, one of your loved ones. If you have a loved one that's passed, you can refer to them as spirit. Although when I talk to them, they're just people. I don't like to think of them as something different because they are. just like you and I, they're people. The benefit for them is they don't have the, the clothing on that we do as
Or
far
the
as our human
physical.
skin.
Okay.
Hmm.
When we previously spoke, you mentioned that it is important to have a clear vessel to develop a relationship with the other side. You referred to this relationship as my own team on the other side. My own team on the other side. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Cynthia?
Sure. So, so I guess I'll start with clear vessel. So, clear vessel, I think, is the work that we need to do always. And when we were talking about training and things like that, the best spirit or the best training is spirit. The best training for me,
Mhm.
hands down, no matter what I've done. Arthur Findley was only a part of the training that I've done. And the real teachers have always been the spirits on the other side, my team. So when I say my team or my they're kind of my family on the other side,
Okay.
they are those souls that have chosen to help me, and I've chosen to help them upon this life, in this life, for my journey. So I guess you can kind of think of it as before uh, I came, I had a meeting with some other souls, and I said, okay, I want to hopefully accomplish, this and this and this. And they said, okay, wonderful. We're going to help you with this and this. And we want you to kind of help us with this and this. And so we're in this as a team. We're doing this as a team together. We're working together as a team. So um, they have taught me a lot about communicating and how to communicate on the other side, or how to be that clear vessel, which is basically getting myself out of the way, because I'm not doing anything. It has nothing to do with me. It's not about me in any way, shape, or form. It's all I'm doing is talking. uh, the they are doing all the hard work. Believe me, they're doing the work, and it is just my job to be as clear of a vessel as I can be, so that I can communicate everything it is that they are trying to bring through to their loved ones.
So you mentioned as a child, that you were initially scared of these events. Have you stopped being fearful? Has there evolved a level of comfort?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a process for sure.
Okay.
I think I went through in the beginning this, you know, grand excitement and learning about this stuff, and um, even finding out the name medium. I had no idea that was even a thing, or that, um, that other people did it. and
Mm.
and then I definitely went through a period of trying to come to grips with what I was doing, and is it okay, and is it a sin, and
Mm.
all of that kind of thing. And that was
Oh.
years and years. But yeah, there is 100% no fear. It probably has helped me more than anything else, and
Mm.
hopefully helped many, many other people to realize that there
Mm.
is no fear, because there really is no death. There is no death. It is just a transition. That's
And
all
I'm
it is.
glad you said that, because those are other questions that I have that, again, when I was asking people what they would want to know, one was about the process of dying and life after death. Your biggest fear, if any, you just said there is no fear, but do you have any fears as a psychic medium, a spiritual medium?
No,
Okay.
nope, absolutely not.
What has been the most difficult reading or sitting? What do you refer?
Mm.
Do you refer to your meetings or sessions or sittings? Which word do you
Sessions. I just call them a
sessions?
session.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has been the most difficult session you've ever had in your career to date?
Uh, Gosh, that's a great question, Jody. I don't know if there is one in particular, but I would say the most difficult sessions are the ones that when you have a mother sitting in front of you that
Mm.
has lost a child.
I got to tell you, as a clinical psychologist, that is always the hardest for me, is to have a
Yeah,
mother. There's just that, yeah, okay. Go ahead.
yeah. Grief
Yeah,
is real, and grief is it's a human emotion that we have to go through. And just because you know that your loved one is fine and doing
okay.
amazing on the other side, we're still human and we still have to grieve. And I think that's a really, really important part of life that we cannot skip, because through grief and through that process, if I believe that if we can go through that, then we can come out the other side so much better, and with a so much of a higher understanding of how things are.
I want to repeat what you said because I think it's so profound, Cynthia. Grief is real. It is just a human experience we have to go through. And none of us escape it ever, do we? Yeah.
No,
And
no, no.
every day, the longer I live, the more amazed I am at how, as human beings, we survive what we do, and why
Yeah,
it's so, so important to grab those moments of light, those moments of happiness.
yeah.
How do you self-regulate yourself psychologically, physically? How do you avoid burnout? Because I know this is the mental energy that you must experience has to be very exhausting. How do you take care of you?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I think that it's a lot of processing. If I've had a really difficult session, I have to, I've experienced that through them. And so I have to definitely sit and process and take time for myself. I do a lot of walking and being
Okay.
outside and
Okay. Yeah.
hiking, and I do a lot of internal work,
Okay.
a lot of internal work. So that is key, I think, for not just me, but for everyone. I'm sure, as you know, Jody, that it doesn't matter what anybody else does if we don't do the work.
Yeah. And we have to self-monitor, and we have to pause and take a step
Yes.
back, because we do incorporate, whether we believe it or not, or we're good at compartmentalizing, we are still absorbing all of that, the life, and with you, the death of others. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I want to go
absolutely.
back to the Catholic. You were raised Catholic. Do you believe in God?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, without a doubt.
And so, what was it like growing up in a Catholic home? You had mentioned to me before that you went to church. What
Yeah.
was that like, trying to balance it, or consolidating it? Did you choose either or do you choose both?
You know, that's another great question. Again, it was a process. I think for a long time I chose, um, Catholicism all the way. I tried to just push everything that was happening away. Didn't really want to um, deal with it or hear about it, because I thought for sure it was, really bad, or I was bringing something horrible in or
Mm,
whatever. I still was very curious and I wanted to know what was happening. So I tried to find out as much as possible without completely diving in. And then I went through a period of completely, denouncing the church and I'm going to be spiritualist and all of that. And then I came back to Christianity, and then I went into, nothing, it's been
You're
this
trying to
process,
figure it
believe me.
out. Yeah.
I'm human, right? It's like all these trying to
Yeah.
figure these, yeah. So now I do not I don't have any religion. My faith is in the divine, period. And that is what I follow. And I follow, my the divine first, and then my higher self, and connecting in, and that's it really.
Okay. So, how do you deal with the non-believers or the people that believe that what you do is, like I said before, witchcraft, heresy,
Yeah.
the devil's work? How do you respond to that? And do you get a lot of people, social media, or even who come to you that say, "Oh, you're a charlatan" or whatever? How do you deal with
Yeah, yeah,
that?
absolutely. Yeah, you always will have that. You always.
Okay.
I don't think that's unfortunately something that you can get away from. Um, I will say it's taken me many, many, many years uh to get, I don't know if it's thick skin. I don't want to call it thick skin because it's not really thick skin. It's, I guess, a just to be able to let it go and know that
Mm,
it's not a truth, and so it doesn't bother me at all
okay.
anymore. I have my truth and they have their truth, and
Okay.
it's all good. So it doesn't bother me. It's where they're at, and this is where I'm at, and that's okay. I would never ever want to try and um convince anybody of anything, because I feel like that's a very personal journey, and a journey that's timed, right? So um
Yeah.
it's yeah, it doesn't bother me. I love healthy skeptics, someone that comes in that is very skeptical, because I am one of those without a doubt. So I welcome that. I love that, because I feel like you know, I don't want anybody just believing blindly, or I want them to come in with questions and with um well, I'm not sure about this, but I kind of have an open mind, and I don't have any expectations, but let's just see where it goes. And it's always those the wives drag their husbands,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
the husband sits there like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
get the picture.
right? I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And so it always, it cracks me up, because they're the ones that end up getting the message, and they're the ones that end up, you know,
Yeah.
grabbing all the Kleenex by the end of the session. And uh, to be able to, my goal is just to hopefully bring some healing. And I'm not even doing it, but it's that their loved ones from the other side will bring them healing, and to bring a knowing that there is life after death, not a belief, but a
But
knowing.
annoying. And you have also worked with a psychologist. You shared office space, which I was like,
Yeah.
wow, because we're scientists and evidence, but I do have to say that working in the hospital settings, in the burn units, trauma units, neuro, I have seen the most incredible of things, and
Yeah.
was raised to believe beyond that which I have learned, and never to be so arrogant to disbelieve things, but to always keep an open mind. So, would the psychologist refer clients to you? And what was it for?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of went back and forth. I worked with two separate. One was a psychologist and one was a family counselor, and
Okay.
they were both kind of different. So the psychologist would refer people, and I would refer people. It was kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that.
It's a
And
feedback
then
loop.
yeah, exactly, because we all need numerous
Yeah.
things, right? And then the family counselor, we actually had done a session together. So we did have done some sessions to where I would come in and their loved ones would come in. And as I am bringing through their loved ones, then she would help them go through the process and process what was happening. And if they had questions and
Okay.
things that were kind of as things were moving through. Um, and then we would do one session with me, and then right after, then because she was present, and then she would do a session right after. Um,
Okay.
Especially for some real intense suicides or things
Ah,
like that that were very,
imagine.
very touchy kind of situations that
Yeah, I would
that
bet there'd be a lot of grief too that the three of you would address with your expertise. And thank
yeah.
you for that because and there's so much of that going on now too. The world is so difficult, more it seems than it ever has been. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for your work. I think
Oh,
it's so
thank you.
important.
Yeah, it's a privilege, but
Yeah,
it's a challenge too, but it's a privilege.
absolutely.
Have you ever worked with like any organizations to solve crimes, cause of death, find missing people?
Yeah, I did for a while, back in, gosh, I want to say maybe 2016, 20, I don't know, somewhere around in there. No, it must have been before that. But anyway, yeah, I did work on a couple of cases, and wow, they were hard. The people that do that on a regular basis,
Oh,
I just can't
yeah.
even imagine.
Mm.
It. I only did maybe two or three because I couldn't sleep at night. They're very, very intense. Um, but I mean, if you help at all, even a little bit, it's wonderful. To be able to give a family any kind of closure is wonderful. But it really, those kind of things are um, team effort. All the detectives are amazing. Everybody that is doing it is a part of it. I had no idea how many people. I mean, it's incredible, the team and the effort that they kind of need to put forth to solve any kind of situation like that.
And I think the toll that they take, just like is so incredible. Um, know some individuals that work within the crime, behavioral as well as criminal end of things, FBI, and it's just like first responders. Uh, those are the ones in the field absorbing and seeing so much. And
Yes.
I really think they don't get enough acknowledgement for what they do. So thank you for bringing that to our attention that there's a whole team involved in
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
Um, I was also reading at some point, like a lot of people with exorcisms, for example, that the
Mhm.
Catholic Church, there's a whole thing that takes place, a whole team of the best and the very best in the entire world, physicists, psychiatrists, psychologists, mediums, all of it, the best and the best before they will actually say, okay, we've ruled out every evidentiary
Yeah,
variables to be able to say that this was a cause of mental illness, some kind of mold or central nervous system or you know, problem. and the millions of dollars that are spent for that. I'm like, wow, I had no idea, like probably many other people, which you see on the TV or the media,
Right.
is kind of like, so educating ourselves.
Exactly.
Consciousness, higher self. Does it die when
Yes.
we die?
No, no, absolutely not. And that's how we are able to kind of bring in, a medium is able to bring in that person's their personality, who they were, you know, um, a lot of and myself included in the beginning, I was very focused on evidence. We got to get evidence, piece. And the more that things evolve and the more that things change, um, I have realized, it's a conversation. It's a conversation between you and your loved one. And part of that is being able to feel their presence and know that they are here with you, and to get their little quirks and their humor or their non-humor, or whatever it is about them that made them who they were when they were here. So you have no doubt that that is who they are. So that's the consciousness that moves over, that stays with you when you cross.
And I think it was Einstein who said energy never dies, it regenerates. Now, exactly where it goes into the atmosphere, we're not sure, but the core of who we are is
Yeah.
energy. I mean, I've seen that
Yes.
when I worked in emergency rooms at the time that the person passed on or died, there was a lack of something. And
Yeah.
where does it go? So near death experiences, people
Yeah.
who experience death, and there's a lot of literature, even the medical literature, on that. Um, but what's your view on that, on near death experiences?
Well, I would take the view from my own viewpoint because I've had one.
Okay.
So that would be from my own experience, I can give that and then just my interpretation of it. I certainly don't know or all of this, but I know as much as everybody else. It's from my experiences. Um, and when I had a near death experience, I was very young, and I didn't have the whole tunnel and that kind of thing happen. It definitely, everything went very white and light. I didn't so much see anyone as I sensed everyone was there. I could sense this intense, loving feeling. I had no fear at all,
Okay.
at all. Um, I did not want to come back. I know that for sure. I did not
Okay.
want to come back. It just felt so amazing. Mine was very quick, so I didn't experience, what like Anita Moriani, who has amazing information out there on that.
Who is
Um,
that, Cynthia?
she is a lady who had cancer and basically died in the hospital, and remembers every moment of it, and came back completely different person. And if anybody wants information on the near death experience, she is incredible.
Okay.
Um, and it's, I feel like in that moment, a lot of what happens is you are in the in between. You're not fully here, but you're not fully there. So you're kind of in this in between state. And in that, you are able to still possibly hear the people here, or kind of somewhat be connected, but mainly your soul is connecting with those on the other side, and you're kind of in that mid state. In that state, you can get information obviously a lot easier than if we're fully here, and you bring that back with you, and all of that stays with you. And so a lot of that,
Mm.
all the people that I've talked to that have had one come back with no fear of death, with an understanding of pure love on the other side, absolutely pure love. And and that we are one. We're all connected energetic. We're all energy. We're all energy, period. And so how can we not all be one, and one with everything, everything that you see, everything that you touch, everything that you sense. And so I think when you kind of have that experience, it puts a different knowing inside of you instead of believing. It doesn't mean that we're not going to go through all that stuff, because believe me, I have, and I did.
Okay.
But
Well, and there's a lot of books written too. One is, I think, called Proof of Heaven. I think that was written by
yeah,
a physician who was
yes,
actually at one time brain dead, according to the diagnostics. And
yeah,
you
I've
have the
read that.
theories of why the tunnel, the light. There's also that physiological and morphological event that happens as the body shuts down. But there
Right?
is the consciousness and psychological and emotional aspect that we have to remember as well. Which
Yeah,
brings me to what you said. I asked you, how does the other side, how do they communicate with you? And you said, well, sometimes it's a thought that drops in your head, or
yeah.
something, a whisper in your inner ear, or breathing, or the smell of cigarette smoke. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think that um, they use everything they can. So if I'm connecting, say, for instance, with someone's sister who has passed, um, she will come in, maybe she had a specific smell, and she'll give me that smell. Maybe she was very elegant, so all of a sudden my entire body, I will kind of sit up, I will feel different, and versus maybe a military person that comes in, I will want to be very straight and erect, and have a very, to the point kind of attitude. So it's they're impressing their energy upon mine, to where I can feel their mannerisms, or their humor,
Mm.
or their if they're a real, spicy kind of person, or if they're very quiet or loud, or you know and again, it comes in all different kinds of ways, depending upon who they are and how they feel they can get the information through to me.
Does it, so they're facets of their personality and characteristics. What happens with the individuals that have had a traumatic death or have been sick? Is there a difference there? Or that's a question that repeatedly people had wanted to know. Is it
Yeah.
different in the way they communicate?
It it is not different. It is
Okay.
different in the way that they show me or allow me to sense how they passed. So, if it's, for instance, a car accident,
Hmm.
and they had impact in a specific area of their body, I can feel, the jolt, the impact, um, and and then it goes away. It's very fast and instant. Nothing stays. And and then they'll kind of give me a feeling for a moment of, how that was in that moment, which most of the time, I got to tell you, they're already gone by then.
Okay.
Their body may be there, their maybe part of their consciousness, but they're not feeling a thing.
Okay. So
Almost
they're not feeling any
unconscious.
pain or grief
Nope,
or,
nope. They will come in and they will talk more about the pain of their loved one that's still here. They don't even want to talk about a lot of them don't want to talk about their death or how they died or their
hmm.
last moments. They will bring that in as validation to whom they were and who was there, but it's never anything that stays or that's important
So,
because that's
so the
not where they're at
heaviness of life, the negative of life is alleviated.
in an instant.
Okay. So another question again that people said, ask, make sure you ask Cynthia this. Do they look after those of us who still live?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And
100%.
this happens even with clients and patients. They'll say, I felt the presence, or I felt a smell, or the lights went on and off. Or so my question to you is, are we generating that? Because we know adolescence and a lot of the literature on
Right.
a lot of stuff
Yep,
that
yep, that
happens, they
happens.
can move things because of the hormonal things and the use of that primal, that paleo mammalian brain, that limbic brain, before we got all this executive functioning and thinking brain.
Absolutely.
But so the wrapping or the lights going on and off, or some people will talk about a smell, a heavy smell of flowers. Is that how they
Mhm.
communicate with us? Do we pay attention to that? Is it a function of our memory and our wishful thinking and desires, or a combination of both, or them?
I think with that, you have to remember that when they are present and they are, bringing you a smell or flickering the light, there's an intelligence behind that.
Hmm.
And it's not just a random thing. So, like you were talking about, as we know, we can create things and move things, and right, especially when we're, teenage, active, everything's going crazy. But in that, I would say when that happens, are you in a state of we'll go back to a teenager when they're in a state of all of this hormonal energy and they're angry in that moment. I very much doubt they're thinking about a loved one in that moment. If they are, if that thought comes in, probably is one of their loved ones. So I think it has to be a combination. I definitely am not one that is every little thing that happens, oh my gosh, it's somebody from the other side, because it's not. But we have to remember that they are like us. There's an intelligence behind
Oh,
that.
that's pretty powerful when you say that, an intelligence behind that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about, I would say this, if you're thinking about them, if you have a thought drop in and then something happens, I would say very much it's them. I would also say play with it, play with them, communicate with them. Don't just, oh,
Mm.
what happened? What is that? Say, oh, hey, Sandra, is that you? Oh my gosh, I just had a thought about you. You'll get if you pay attention, you just go silent for a minute and feel in, you'll get a feeling. You'll know. You will know. I think that's another thing is we have to trust ourselves, which we just don't do.
Yeah.
If it feels right and it feels like it's your loved one, I would say chances are it most
Okay.
definitely is.
Do you think that when people are grieving, they're especially vulnerable internally, but also perhaps with the person they're grieving, communicating, possibly?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say too, they know, your loved ones know. They know, and they would never come and do anything to scare you or to put you at unease or unrest. Um, they're gonna wait until you are in a better place,
Okay.
and then they will try and communicate with you in different ways. So the grief definitely, I think, can affect things for sure. And if I have someone that comes that is in intense grief,
Mm.
um, they may not hear from the person they really, really want to hear from.
Is
And
it too overwhelming psychologically, like dreams are
I think,
metaphoric to protect the
yeah,
psyche? Okay.
I think so. I think so because when I will go into meditation later and I will ask my team,
Mm.
hey, this person really wanted to talk with, whomever. Why didn't that happen? And they'll say it wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right time. It would do more harm in that moment, and they will never do
Mm.
that. So we just have to trust. You know, when they do come through, I have had people ask, "Oh, now that they're on the other side, they know everything." Well, they know more, but I wouldn't say they know everything. They're still trying, to kind of, so as they're like, "Oh, I'll take their advice for well, maybe not. It's still kind of like an advice from a friend. The last person that needs to deal with that is you. So we
Mm.
always got to go in.
Cynthia, thank you so much. I have a final question though.
Yeah,
Um, you have three sons.
I
What do
do.
they think of what you do, and what do they tell their friends? My mom is a medium. My mom is a spiritual counselor. I had to
Right,
ask
right.
you that. As a mom, I had to ask that.
I get it. Well, I think, as they were growing up, it was a little more difficult because they always had,
Yeah.
their friends coming in. But luckily with having boys and their friends, like they don't care. They first of all, they don't care what their mom does, and secondly, their friends don't care. So, and when it comes up, they're like, "Oh, cool,"
Yeah.
you know, and now that they are all adults and on their own, it's kind of the same thing, I guess since they grew up with it, it's not a big deal. And I'll always ask, if they're bringing a new girlfriend over or something,
Yeah.
do I need to be careful what I say, or
Yeah.
should
I
I
do
put
that too
my
with my
books
son.
away?
That's being a mom.
Respect.
So, if you had one message to leave the audience with today, what would that be?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say, um, know that we are all one. Kind of really take the time to get to know your inner self, who you are, that soul piece of you that connects with the divine, and know without a doubt that we are so much more than just these human forms, and that there is absolute life after death in a very, very loving way.
Thank you, Cynthia. And where can people reach you?
They can go to my website, which, yeah, good luck remembering that one.
Oh,
I don't
I
even know
have
it off
it
the
though.
top
I
of my.
have it.
Oh, you do? Okay, you say.
It's Cynthia dash and.net. Is that it?
Yes, that's correct.
www.cynthia-and.net. You're also on Facebook under
Yeah.
Cindy Langley Medium. You're on Instagram. You're on LinkedIn.
Yep, I am. Yep,
Okay.
yep. So they can find if they type in Cindy Langley Medium or Cynthia Ann Medium, it should come up. So I changed it to Cynthia because Cindy was always being misspelled and people were having a hard time finding me because it's
Okay.
Cyndi.
Oh, well, it's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you
And
very much.
to be continued.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely. Thank you very much.
And you take good care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.